every year I choose a word that's like my theme for the year. And then
Oh, what's
and then
this year's?
this year's is curiosity.
Oh, that's really good.
Last year,
Oh,
2025 was connection, which I feel like I really thrived with in 2025. But it's just like brings me back to like this is what I want to be. But I also do like a sort of like a bucket list. So like I started this in 2022, I think, where it's like 22 things I want to do this year, and some of them are like have a girls' night,
Uh-huh.
uh, complete
Right.
a craft. Like it's not these major
Right.
things
Yeah.
all the time. And then I like going through and like, what did I do? What did I
So
like
I think I
revisit it through
started
the
it in
year?
2023 and I called it like an intention list because I was like, New Year's resolution feels
I
like,
hate it.
yeah, I don't love that. So it was an intention list. And it was basically for me like milestone based. But yeah, and then at the end of the year I love to like see like what I hit, what I didn't. And so for 2025 a podcast was one of them.
and
So yeah,
here we are.
and here we
We
are.
love
Yeah,
to we love to get an intention in before,
definitely.
right
Yes.
at the buzzer.
Mhm.
And you
Mhm.
can always throw out an intention for next year on the pod because I feel like everything that now with the podcast, I mean, Jill and I have talked about this, is if we speak it into existence on the podcast, we actually have to abide by it. And so this year there was an intention for me to really hone in on holiday shopping before. Usually I would start now, like this week,
Oh,
and really be jamming it all in, you know? And I'm basically done.
that's amazing. Yes.
Yeah.
I totally agree with you about like saying it out loud, calls it in.
Yes.
Um, I joke with my clients that like I'm into the woo a little bit, but really it's spiritual
Yes.
psychology. And so I absolutely agree. And actually, I had said to Jill too that like for 2026, something I'm trying to speak into existence is to really get my New York City office booming. So I just said
Oh, okay.
Let's go.
Yay. Let's talk
so
about that
so
too.
there it is. I
Well,
just said it.
yes. Amazing. So, Michelle, you've been in the field for over 20 years.
Yes.
When you look at young adults today, what do you feel like stands out about young adults in our current climate? I think a lot of what we talked about, and we did a little prep call before this podcast, is that's primarily the population you work with. You also have young adult children.
I
And
do.
so, tell us a little bit about what you're seeing in the young adult population that has really been either jarring or exciting for you.
I do. I see a lot of young adults. Currently, it's probably my favorite population to work with. I think they're in such an exciting time. But a lot of what I do see, sort of sadly, is um, a like fear of intimacy, a lack of connection,
Mm.
especially interpersonally, and sort of this just like heightened loneliness. Like, I find them to be lonely on, like, another level. And there actually is
Mm.
research that does say that, like, young adults today are, like, lonelier than even, like, 65-year-olds. So,
Who are empty nesters
who are
who
empty
don't have
nesters,
children
who
in the home
maybe
anymore, not
right, who
working.
maybe have lost a partner already, like,
Right.
families are grown, and young adults are starting out, and, I recall being in my, 20s and, like, having the time of my life and feeling like every day was just so much fun. And of course, that didn't mean that there was no stress, right? In school and all the things, but like fun was a big priority. And I
Sure.
think part of it, I think that they don't have as much fun, but I think it's bigger than that.
So
Um,
can you give some examples for people who are listening who have a young adult child, or maybe it's a therapist listening and they see young adult clients. What does that actually look like? What are clients saying to you? What are you hearing that is a signal of like they're actually lonely?
I'm seeing less romantic relationships, fear of romantic relationships, less actual connected friendships, more online and social media usage, which feels connected, but is actually an illusion of intimacy. And they're
And they
very
don't recognize that.
they don't. So
You have to explore that.
that's where it is. It's that they feel close because they talk online, they game, right? And I have the piece in, my friends are talking and we're gaming, and that feels in some way like a relationship, but we're not really connecting, right? Close versus connected. Close is like I could be physically next to you, but connected,
Mm.
trusting you is feeling like you hear and see me, feeling like you get me, right? When I say to my and when I'm saying young adults, I'm speaking like, I guess, 18 to 30 ish. When I say, like, who really knows you? Most of them say no one.
Well, I think about when you're alone,
Mm.
I always think about nighttime because to me it's like that's the time where that loneliness sets in, but it could be any time of the day. But when you're alone
Mhm.
at night and you're by yourself, who could you call if you feel like I don't feel good right now? Like
Right.
I'm having these thoughts or I feel sad or cuz I can name I have a whole hand of people that I can call and be like, "Dude, I just need to talk right now."
Well, I'll
But
ask even a
that's what's
further
missing.
question, like, what if you're in an emergency, right? You're talking about, like, I'm feeling, like, sad and with my thoughts, like, I'm talking, like, what if it's an emergency? Who could you call?
Mm.
And most 30-year-olds would say their mom, but that's, like, because their car broke down. But, like,
Mm.
if say, like, who would you call if you were, like, struggling with your thoughts? Most people would say, "I have no one to call." Most of my clients that I'm seeing would say, "Really, no one."
How is that connected to shame?
Well, it's vulnerability, right? So,
Yeah.
like, being really vulnerable, being afraid to, like, express that, like, "Oh, I'm really sad. I'm struggling. I feel not enough, alone, sad," right? All the things that it's the vulnerability is heightening the shame, and it just feels so risky, right? Especially because we live in this culture of, like, curation. So everything is
Right.
curated for them, right? They go online and everything looks perfect, and they're putting together these very controlled, very curated images for the world to see. So then to be one-on-one and to show you my vulnerability, which I cannot then curate and control, feels so scary, so filled with shame, right? And, like, that is a slow progression, right? Like, we don't typically meet someone and just start saying, like, "So when I was 5 years old, this thing happened," right? But
Right.
sometimes these young people do because of the safety of the screen. They get close fast, but they're not connected.
Well, I would
Do you
take it a
feel
step
like
further. I would take it a step further though, because if you think about online spaces, whether it's texting, whether it's those curated experiences, everything's documented. So I think there's also a fear of like, well, if I say this, am I being recorded and it's going to be uploaded somewhere? Is a picture of what I text going to be put like I think like the online bullying and all the comments and all the I do think there's a fear around that in terms of the
Yes.
vulnerability. Like I'm not just going to be exposed to this one person. I'm going to be exposed to
Yes.
the internet
Mhm.
or
But
the
I'm
my
talking
community.
about actual, like, reach out and touch you, like, sit with someone in real life. That is the scariest
That
thing.
feels
That
very
feels
awkward
so
to
right? I
this
cannot
generation.
think of like, behind the screen, I could pause, I could think, I could type out something, I could erase it, but I think it's the one-on-one that just feels so, so scary. However, because of the online, they think they're close to people, but they're not connected to people, and that's what I see.
when you think in terms of the curated environments, what came to mind when you were discussing that is that curated environments are also, I feel like, handed to the children by their parents. You know, so many parents are looking online today at, I'll just take something that feels relevant in this season, which is the elf on the shelf.
Yes,
And the elf on the shelf is curated in so many different ways, right, for young
yes,
children.
yes,
And parents putting so much energy into the Elf on the Shelf, which I think is in as a concept is really cute. But I think what happens is that it it takes over curating this excitement for children day in and day out for a month or whatever it is. And it
Correct.
really doesn't stop there, right? You're curating the environment to go. I'm, guilty of this. I mean, curating the environment to take them on these excursions and these, extravagant, trips, or bringing them, these birthday celebrations that are
Right.
so much larger than life.
Yes.
I mean, I'm guilty of it.
Of
I mean, I did
course.
an extravagant birthday party for my son when he turned 1, and he was horrified. He cried the whole time. So I think that there's this culture that we live in is not only social
It's
media
for the
is
gram. It's
curating
for the
to the
gram.
algorithm, yes, and I mean, everything that we do. Even yesterday, I signed up for, a service that curates clothing, right? That you can do rental and you can switch up and never wear the same piece twice. And I,
And,
I,
like,
I feel like there's
and
a
that
curation that's so much larger than
there is.
just,
And, like,
yeah,
I say all the time, like, I'm so grateful that, like, I got married and had babies before Instagram because I 100% would have been bought into all of that. Like,
right.
but what you're talking about though is this like this compare society. That's what it is. It's because we see it online and then we feel bad if we don't have it or do it. So it's really it's marketing really, but like it's and then we
Yeah, of
do it.
course.
And then it's like that compare despair feeling. So and our kid like my so I have 3 teenage daughters. This is like they're growing up and they're seeing. So I tell them all the time, they think I'm such an old lady, but like in my day, I read like 17 magazine. And like
Yes.
maybe there was like an article about, whoever was cool then. And I would read about like her life. They are seeing the lives. They're seeing their
In
bed.
real time.
They're seeing their houses. They're seeing what they eat for dinner in real life, in real time. And it makes it feel almost attainable.
So
Well, I
how
don't
do
think we're
we,
having honest conversations about all of that. Like, I'm just thinking of like the elf on the shelf, like
Mhm.
example.
the elf doesn't live here.
Our
I'm going to tell
elf,
you that right now.
our yeah, it doesn't yet. It will, because you know what? You're gonna get peer pressured into it because
Exactly. It's
One of
your son's
Bodhi's
gonna come
friends
home
came
from
over.
school. Nope, nope, it's gonna happen, Molly. I put
One
money
of
on it. It's
Bodhi's
on the
friends already
podcast
came
now.
over. He already came over and he said, "Where's the
You'll
elf?" I
have
go, "The
one.
elf doesn't live here."
You'll
Mhm.
have one. So I said I did that for a long time, but now I have the elf. They'll come back. Oh, this kid's elf did this. Ours just move around. Yep, that's what this elf does in this house. Like I don't know what to tell you. I
Right.
am the least influenced. Okay, I'm not. I'm not. I'm not doing anything outside of what I'm capable of doing, and doing all these scenes and all the not happening. Okay, the elf just moves.
Right. But that's what my elf did, but to be fair, like, there wasn't this much about that. Now the elf comes out and he stays where he stays. He doesn't even move anymore, but I have 15 and 17-year-olds, so um, but he still comes out.
Yeah, right. But so I wonder, we're in a time where this is normal, okay? And so we're in an ever-changing landscape with technology, social media, connection. So part of me says, okay, w- this is a problem. How do
Mhm.
we connect young people? How do we connect even adults, right? I think this applies across the
No, you
board.
mean yes, of course.
But how do we also acknowledge that this is normal, like as far as having access to technology? So, what do you suggest when a young person is feeling this level of disconnection or inauthentic relationships or not enough vulnerability? How do they proceed when this is also part of their life? It's not something that they can just remove.
And in fact, I wouldn't encourage them to remove it. It's
Right.
like, it's not going away. And I think if you remove it, you isolate even further.
Right.
Um, and just before I get into that, I like ultimately what the fear here is, I feel like I should mention this, is the rejection piece, right? Is that uh,
Okay.
right, like that's why. It's like, oh, if I show you who I really am, if I'm vulnerable, if I expose my shame, then I'm going to be rejected on such an extreme level that this is just so dangerous. It's so risky. And I think, in terms of like how do we heal that, right? It's a like it is a risk, but it's taking the risk in a slow, measured way, which we have completely lost because we go online and because it feels safer, we do overshare. We do expose quickly, right? I have young people and they're talking on dating apps and they're like telling, and they're very quickly sharing so much, feeling very close, but
Mm.
not how we build intimacy. We actually build into true intimacy really slowly. And what do we know about young people? They are in a rush all the time and they don't like to be uncomfortable and they want things yesterday.
I
And
feel like that also goes for adults. I mean, I think Jill and I have talked a lot about this. Some of the emails or some of the communications we have received from staff members
yes,
on a level of oversharing
yes,
with a level of comfortability to have with someone who may be a new hire.
we have
It
gotten so comfortable with, yeah. And so, like, over, like, and I had said that earlier, like, I don't, if I just met you, like, I should probably not be telling you about my childhood trauma, right? Like, that's just not like first, not even date, like just first meeting.
Yeah, but it's normalized on
And
TikTok
it
and
is.
right? Like
so
all
Yes,
these
weird.
things
it
about
is.
and that also translates into them coming into session saying, "Oh, diagnosing themselves and this is what
Oh,
I have." And
Oh, yeah. There
oh,
or my boyfriend was a
diagnosing is
narcissist or
so
oh,
yeah.
okay.
over.
Oh,
Oh, yeah. I have a kid right now. I think, like, I mean, every day they diagnose. I'm like, I think we're up to like 14 diagnoses. I'm like, okay,
Like,
let's.
don't worry. I just got a master's degree to be able to do this, but I'm glad that you were able to do it in a 30-second TikTok.
Yeah, I'm sure. Thank you that
That's great.
TikTok has cured
and
you and
ChatGPT.
diagnosed you. Yeah, and ChatGPT, exactly.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think that is like, the like definite beginning part is to slow it down, which is uncomfortable, which they don't like, but that's the work. Like that's the therapeutic work for sure, is just slowing it down and explaining like the normalcy of like relationships should build over time, right? Solid, secure relationships are the ones that slowly build, and there's trust and there's safety and there's security. We don't get that in a week, and we don't get that when we're shot out of a cannon. And there's the problem, though, is like the maladaptive behaviors that they use, which is like the dating apps and the social medias and all of that. It is built to be fast and furious and intense, and when
What
you're young and your
uh,
brain lights up on that, that's
yes.
intoxicating.
What about, something that just came to mind, and I know that I've had the experience of feeling potentially safer behind a screen doing, my own having my own, therapeutic journey. How do you feel that telehealth has maybe compromised the ability to experience that with a client, where they can actually be in the room and sit with a clinician and start to almost role play what it would be like to have conversations with other people in their life? Because I
Mhm.
do think there is a big protective factor when you see clients virtually. And I don't know how much of your practice is virtual versus in person, but I feel
Half.
like people show up differently
They
on a
do show
screen
up.
than they do in person.
So I would say about half my practice is virtual, and I agree with you that there is definitely a protective quality to it,
Yeah.
and I feel like I have still been able to do that.
Mhm,
Still been able to have those, like, hard conversations. Role play is a big one,
mhm,
and sort of break through, like, that discomfort of, like, you know what? Like, sometimes we need to pause. I tell people all the time, like, you know, sometimes the best thing you could say is silence. Like, and that is just like an art that people don't understand. Saying nothing is saying a lot, but they feel like they need to talk, 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 talk. And listen, right. Like you said something before. I'm totally guilty of if someone texts me, sends me a text message, my knee jerk is to respond immediately. I don't know why, but like I've tried to slow it down and be like, you know what? I don't need to respond immediately the second the text message comes in, but
mhm,
that's an anxiety response, right? Like
mhm,
that's what that is.
mhm.
Young people have that times a million.
Well, Jonathan Haidt talks about that in The Anxious Generation a lot, right? He talks about they did studies on how many notifications a young person gets
Yes.
at any given day while they're
Yes.
also trying to learn in school, while they're also trying to
Yes.
do homework. Well, how are you supposed to stay present? And then meanwhile, we're diagnosing all these kids with ADHD. Is it ADHD or
Right.
is it the technological influence of
Yes.
having notifications? And that's something I know for me, I don't have any notifications on my phone.
Yes.
I have ADHD without that.
Right.
Because if I'm constantly being notified all day, I'm just gonna get distracted and not being able to do anything because 'cause I'm just gonna be I'm
Do you
reacting
have your
now, I'm not
text
responding.
notifications on or no notifications at all? No notifications.
Like, that
I
gives
don't
me
have any
anxiety.
notifications, but
Yeah.
I do have the notifications on for text messages, but that's
Me
it.
too.
Like, no social media notifications, no email
Yeah.
notifications.
But
I
I
mean,
do have my text.
I get the bubble with how many texts, but I'm not getting, like, the
But
on
you're
my
not
You're
getting
not
it.
screen.
getting it on the locked screen. You're not getting
No.
any.
Yeah, like, that actually makes me anxious to think about.
Whoa,
Yeah.
I am gonna change that. I feel like that is probably a game changer.
Yeah,
I
like,
also
if
think,
I can't respond, why should I don't need to see it because I can't respond right now.
and by the way, there was a time where, like, we didn't have 24 access to people, and we all survived it, and we did just, like, like, this idea that we need to have 24 access to people has created also this false sense of closeness.
And
Like,
urgency
an
culture.
urgency, like, "Well,
Urgency, yeah.
you whenever I want you." Um, and I also think that we send mixed messages to young people about screens because we tell them how bad it is, and we tell them to stay off it, and we tell them all these things, and then we hand kindergartners Chromebooks. And it's just like, well, that feels contradictory. And then, I mean, my kids now in high school, everything is they don't get a piece of paper ever. Everything is online, right? So it's like, I feel, but then, like, it's like, "You're on your screen too much." It really is a very mixed message.
Yeah,
And
I
by the way,
Also
think that
seeing of the parent who I'm guilty of that. I'm saying, "No,
me
you
too,
shouldn't watch TV," and let's
and
go
then I'm on my
play, and then
phone.
I'm on my phone.
and I'm on my phone.
I do think that the research coming out of the anxious generation though, and some of the discussions around the interventions that he has proposed, which is really banding together as a community. And I know that I've had conversations with parents in my community of, hey, my child's not going to have a phone
Right.
until high school. We will consider a phone in high school. And social media, my children know they do not get social media until they are an adult. 18 years old, they can have their own social media account. I have friends tell me that that's wild. That's not going to happen. And if you ask my kids right now, that's like just a normal conversation that we've been having for years because the research behind social media and child development is just so horrendous.
It
I'm
is.
not willing to take that chance.
It
And if
is.
I have control over it, then I'm going to use that control. My children have iPads. They know they can't use it Monday through Friday. They don't even try to. My
Right.
daughter now will have some phone conversation. She'll FaceTime a little bit during the week, but they're not on that screen. They watch movies. They
Mhm.
watch so many movies on the TV. And that long form storytelling, the research shows is like so much better for the TV is not the issue. Think about how much TV we watched growing up.
Right. It's
Yeah.
not.
But
Right.
that long form movie is
Right.
again slowing down. I have to wait till the end to see. It's not a 20-second video after video.
Exactly, and that depth
So
to it.
scary.
It's that depth. So, honestly, I'll be honest with you, I started reading The Anxious Generation, and I had to stop because my children are the generation he's talking about, and so it actually made me so uncomfortable and so anxious that I was like, for my own nervous system, I can't read this, but I actually do get it, and I'm way past the point. My kids have had social media since they got their phones. They were actually they were on the later side. Um, they're 17 and I have 15-year-old twins, so they got it in 5th grade, which was late at that time.
And that's what my daughter's in, 5th grade, yeah.
Yeah, and then
What was the challenge in reading it? Like, here on our
well,
podcast, we like to ask the hard questions. So
yeah, no,
what
sure.
was the hard part of it?
So well, just the data about what social media does to the underdeveloped brain in general, but the part about it, it's funny because I did go to my kids, and have a real conversation about this because I was panicking, is the kids born, in that I believe it was like 2006 to 2012, which my kids were born in 2008 and 2010. They were the first generation of kids to go through puberty with a front-facing camera. And so they went through puberty
Wow.
publicly. So everybody, they posted online and they basically showed the world the most disruptive, uncomfortable, confusing years of their life, and that there was no turnoff valve. And what he says is whether you got the likes of how beautiful you are or whether you got the dislikes of the you're so ugly, both are equally damaging.
Right.
It's so funny that that's what you took out of it, right? Because you have children of that age.
So
That wasn't even something that resonated with me.
yeah,
It's like new
that's where
information,
I
and I
stopped
read the book.
reading. That's where I was like, and now I have to put this book down. That was the part that like made my heart start to race. I was on a plane. Uh, we were actually going on a family vacation, and I literally think I had a panic attack on the plane.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
um, and
Was it your own, like, shame and guilt as a parent? Were you feeling
100%.
that? Or was it more so that this is just something that exists and this is something we have to live with now because it impacted our children? Or
It was
both?
both. It was partly my shame as a parent that, like, I'm gonna really be honest and come through the front door. Like, I remember TikTok was Musically before it was TikTok.
Yes.
And I think my oldest daughter was like in 7th grade. And I was like, Gia, you should get Musically. Like, look how fun this is.
Hmm. But we don't
Yeah.
know what we don't
And
know, right?
Yeah.
and exactly. And she was like, "Oh," like, she wasn't asking. I went to her with this,
Yeah. So you provoked the idea, yeah.
and now it's TikTok, and it's a whole other story. But, like, there was that shame, and then there was this other part of fear of unknown of, like, just, like, predatory, like, have my
Yeah.
kids been exposed in a way that I don't know?
Mm.
Right.
And that was the conversation that,
Right.
went to with them, and I said, "Girls, like, I have a lot of questions." And maybe the questions should have come before the book, but the book provoked the questions, and honestly, I'm very fortunate that, like, I feel like my girls kind of were smart about it. Like, we always spoke about, like, the dangers of just, like, putting yourself out there, and I was always very honest with them about certain safety things, like, never have anything that says, like, never wear your sweatshirt that says, like, your town, or things that, like, I just knew to be mindful of, like, make sure that you're not tagged in a location. So I did feel like I had
Yeah,
already
the location sharing at all
the
times. These
right.
children share
Yeah.
their location with everyone. And I know even couples that do that, and I'm not knocking it. It's not something that I've ever felt the need that I needed to do with my
Yeah.
partner to have like
Right.
location sharing on. But was in New York yesterday and the day before, and I wanted to go with my brother who is much younger than me. He's 12 years younger than me. He's the baby of the family, and his girlfriend, and we were going to go see the tree. And his girlfriend was coming at a different time than us. And so I was like, "Oh, where is Basha?" And
And he
he was
just
like,
looks
"Oh,
it
let
up.
me," and he just looked at her location. I'm like,
Yeah,
Oh,
so
no,
I
we
have
come from the generation where I'm at a friend's house sleeping over, but I'm somewhere in another town,
That's
okay?
exactly.
exactly
Like,
That
come
is
that's
like,
on.
I'm
exactly
not
right.
giving anyone my
Yeah,
location. I
that's
don't care
exactly
how
right.
well I am.
So I say it to my girls all the time because I have my daughters on location, but I said, unless I birthed you, there is no reason for anyone to have anyone's location, right? Like, unless I gave birth to you, like,
Right.
I think like that's like, but they know where their friends are at all times.
And that's also part of it, feeling
And that's
left
it. Like,
out and like not
and
invited to
that's
the parties
like the
and
whole
all
thing.
of that.
Yeah. And like, then, so that's a whole other part of like, just, I think that feeds into like to kind of circle back, right? It feeds into loneliness, rejection,
Right.
abandonment. Like, if all of your friends are together and I could see it and I'm home, like that, that's going to create a sense of loneliness, and
Do
I
you
think it is weaponized, by the way.
Of course.
Yeah.
So there's the whole I'm very fortunate, I feel like, because as a therapist, I hear about the dating apps and what dating is like now, and I just am very thankful that I met my husband before I had to engage in a dating app
Yep.
scenario.
Yep.
Because I'm lost. I mean, I hear about a new one, I feel like every month.
Yeah, for
I'm
sure.
like, "Oh, I didn't what's this one?" You know?
Right.
So
Absolutely.
I feel like that has compromised our ability to have these real world conversations. But I'm
Yep.
wondering if this is probably gonna be a random question, but it's a new term for me. Have you heard of incels, involuntary celibate people?
Oh, I don't know that I've heard it called that, but
I went down a rabbit hole. I'm
okay.
gonna
What is this
good
that we're
luck to you.
talking about? Can I just sneezed and
Mm.
I feel like I'm confused. Can you repeat the term?
Incels, it's a I don't know what is that called? Some sort of term.
Yes.
A shortened
Involuntary celibacy.
involuntary celibacy. Okay.
Involuntary celibacy, which apparent I think is mostly men.
Men.
But I went down a rabbit hole. I don't know where I saw this, but it was a forum for incels. I don't know what the don't ask for the URL because I don't know. And I honestly don't even know how I went down this rabbit hole, but
Okay.
it was disturbing. It
And they're
was
and they're saying involuntary, like they don't want to be.
They don't want to be. They want to have intimate relationships with women
And they feel like
or
they
men, I'm sure in some instances,
Okay,
but they
here,
feel like they
I'm gonna
can't.
give you the definition. Okay, I just looked it
Please,
up.
please,
Involuntary
because
celibacy or inceldom is the shortened version.
okay.
Describes the state of individuals who desire romantic and sexual relationships but are unable to find a partner despite their efforts. While the experience of unwanted celibacy affects people of all genders and sexual orientation, the term incel has been largely co opted by an online subculture of predominantly heterosexual men who express this frustration through a specific, often extreme ideological lens. The online
yes.
subculture is complex but generally centered on shared experiences of rejection and social isolation, which are then processed through a framework that can be deeply misogynistic and misanthropic.
So
This
what
was
was
coined in the
disturbing
1990s by a Canadian woman named Alana, who created a supportive online space for anyone struggling with lack of sexual and romantic experience.
But this has been extreme, I think,
Yes.
because what ends up happening is this like hatred towards women because
Women.
of this like rejection that they feel like they're experiencing. But some of the in this forum, there was all these little like it was kind of like Reddit, but for like incels, right? And
Okay.
so there were some like sub things that were about like where to get a doll and like a robot and
Oh,
all these
yeah.
other
Yeah.
things that they can do to substitute a romantic relationship. And it was just like, but guys, like no one's talking about what are the efforts that we're talking about? Like, can you talk to a female? Can you talk to somebody of the opposite
Well,
sex? Like,
that's my thing, right?
or are
So
you sitting on a headset playing video games for 12 hours a day and then pissed
correct.
off that you can't find a girlfriend? Nobody
A
nobody wants to
million.
date that.
So when I tell, like, specifically young men, like, you need to go out and I my kind of catchphrase is you need to kiss 1,000 frogs. And I'll be like, you need to go
Totally.
up to women and talk to them. They're like, what do you mean? I don't want to be a creep. I don't want to be like, inappropriate. And I'm like, how did we get there? Like I said, like, go up to someone and be like, hey, can I buy you a drink? No, that's weird. Like they have such a like disconnection from reality because they have not lived in real life. They have no lived experience. And I think that part of it has been this like undertone message too with all of this. I don't want to go down another route, like masculine toxicity, that there's
Mhm.
men who are afraid that if I even just walk up to a woman, I'm being creepy and inappropriate. And so then, therefore, the only way is to curate something first online so she knows I'm safe. But then that's not actually real life either. And then that creates this whole thing. And I'm going to add a layer, which is spicy. Um, I
We love
also,
spicy.
yeah, I also think that this is big among these young men too, is that what it leads to is severe overuse of porn, which leads to real life sexual dysfunction,
Uh-huh.
which
Uh-huh.
which creates more of that fear of, well, now I really can't go on a date because I'm not going to be able to perform.
Well, not only that, but then once I'm in this relationship, their idea of what a typical sexual
Well,
relationship is so distorted.
so that's a whole other level of
That's
what I,
a
and
whole
I see
nother.
that, and I see that constantly. Like that's why that's what the lack of performance is around, because the real life situation doesn't come close to
Never
the
will.
porn situation, and it
Oh,
never,
never
News
will.
alert.
it
Right.
News
never
alert.
will.
Never will.
News alert.
That's right. Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Spoiler. Like, and
Right.
there's such a, then it's like, you know, there's such a disconnect, and they've created this situation, and it just, real life doesn't work.
But you know
And
what's creepy? You sitting in your basement playing video games for 8 hours.
yeah,
That's creepy. No,
yes. And
who wants
Well,
that?
I
then
actually just
using
talked to somebody
porn.
yesterday. I think I just talked to somebody yesterday who did a lot of research on tech addiction and kind of falls in line also with gambling addiction. And
It's a
what they
process
said,
addiction.
well, it's a process addiction, of course, and they just have an inability to connect in a lot of ways, right? So when we were thinking about what this episode looked like, how do people, you're DBT trained, Michelle, and you see this in manifesting in so many different ways in your practice. What do you find is the most helpful skill that you're able to use to really help people reconnect? And I would assume that it's reconnecting with themselves before connecting with somebody else, because they feel so disconnected from self. And that's a lot of what we see, especially with process addiction and drug addiction and alcoholism.
Well, I think that's it, right? So, like, in the DBT world, it's the interpersonal effectiveness skills, but really we're talking about, like, the connection to self. And so what I am doing in sessions is, like, somewhere, and this is the work of it, is there's some core belief, right? From, probably from childhood, that, like, you don't deserve love, or no one's ever going to love you, or you're never going to get the relationship that you think you deserve. Like, there's some block. And
I'm
so
not good enough.
I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough, successful enough, handsome enough, like, whatever the thing is. By the way, women feel those things too. And so it keeps you, again, around, like we're talking about, like, vulnerability and intimacy. It keeps you safe in the basement, because then I never actually have to face any of those. And so the unblocking of those core beliefs that are so deep rooted comes from, like, doing interpersonal effectiveness work, which is like, you know, deepening relationships you already have, sharing little bits of vulnerability with people that are already in your life, right? Like, but, like, in small measured steps, and starting to, allow yourself to become a little bit more open. Even like, I tell people, like, right, like, even with the guy, your barista, right? Like, find something to connect. Maybe he loves dogs and you have a dog. We're not telling him about our trauma, but you're going to find something that if you see that guy every day and he makes your coffee every day, find something that you can say, like, "Oh, hey, I see you like dogs," or whatever. And like, that little step actually is a building block.
Or your hairdresser.
Or your
I feel
hairdresser.
like my hairdresser knows everything.
Exactly,
But I'm
exactly.
just thinking about my own children and how people will comment. I got a comment this morning how an adult was like, "It's so pleasant hanging out with your daughter." It's like I'm just, hanging out with another. It's not like a child I'm having a conversation with. And my son's the same way. My son can have he's 7, but he can ask questions, have a
Mhm,
mutual
mhm,
conversation.
mhm.
And I think that if you don't have a screen and you're kind of forcing those interactions in person, right? That's how
Yep,
you develop it. I
yep.
think for these young adults, it's almost like, well, we're a little too late. We missed that development piece. So now we're like trying to put that into place now after these neural networks were
Well,
already in
it's
place.
2 parts to that. It's because of the screen, and it's because, I also think, because of COVID. I think because
Totally.
and I think that they, like, were checked out of life for so long, they were actually told to stay away from people. They were told that people are dangerous. They were told that people were unsafe, and that 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 actually landed somewhere. It's imprinted now, and they have the screen all the time. So the combination of those two things, I think there is some underlying, like, undertone that people are scary.
Well, it goes back to all of the research around we're not meant to have all of this data coming
No, we're
about all
not.
the scary things of the world.
We're
We're
not,
just not
actually.
built for that. Our brains are not
No.
technologically advanced.
That's right. Actually, so I was listening to a podcast, I think, like, some months ago, and it said something like, "In one day," and I'm gonna quote it wrong, but, like, "In one day, we receive more information than people in the 1500s had in their lifetime."
Yeah.
Like, in one day. Like,
And
we
so
are
our brains have
constantly
not caught up to that.
our brains can't handle it. Exactly, and when you think, like, to your point, right? Like, how do we where that's ADHD for all of us then. Like, how are we making sense of any of that? Right.
So for parents who we just recently had Sarah Benton on the podcast who wrote the book Parents in Recovery, and she talked a little bit about families and awareness and how things, impact and how they're tethered and generational ruptures or repairs. How would you say, what would you advise parents to look for where it doesn't get to the place where someone's 8 hours in the basement playing video games? I mean, that's a pretty extreme, like, there's a much more subtle examples of children and young adults being disconnected from self and therefore disconnected from others. So what would you suggest to be aware of? And what were you aware of with your own children who are still in their developmental stages?
Yeah, well, for sure, I think it's important, like, one hard rule in my house is, like, there's no phones during mealtime. Like, we don't like, no phones at the dinner table, like, that's a hard rule in my house. But on, like, a lot of parents, I will say, like, have your kids charge their phone outside their bedroom at night, overnight.
Mhm.
Separation. And again, I'll be honest, like, some days are better than others.
Yeah,
But, I mean, that's just the truth. But I think, like, as long as you can try and be consistent, but again, if we're talking about connection, even kids who are at a developmental age where maybe it feels like they hate their parents, they really, really love their parents. And so I still believe at the end of the day that if you told your 15 and 17 or 14 and 16-year-olds, hey, put your phones down and we're going to do a family activity, most of the time they would be really into that. I think that they're craving that.
yeah,
And I think and it's missing. I think parents think they don't want it, and kids think
right.
my parents are too busy.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that because even when I'm watching TV with my son, I mean, he's still little, but I'll turn off the TV and he'll, throw like a, really not that large of a fit, but he'll be like, "Come on," or "I want to keep watching," or he'll cry a little bit, and I'll say, "Oh, let's go in the basement and play trains," and he's like, "Okay," and
Okay.
he transitions like
Yeah.
very quickly,
I
you know?
always joke that, like, my best time my daughters is in the car because 'cause they're trapped. But,
Yes.
like, when I have them alone in the car, often, like, if I stay quiet, they start chatting. Like, they want
Uh,
us, you know?
uh,
They wanna tell us things, and they want us involved, you know?
I
And
think about that often because even when we were growing up, our parents couldn't talk to people on the phone in the car. So I'm
yeah,
actually pretty mindful of that. Like, we always listened to music and we would fight over whose music we were listening to.
Yep.
And
yes,
we did have, those TVs that you could kind of put on the back of your
yes,
whatever, like for long road trips, or it was like a big one with the VHS that you could put in it. But for long trips, for if we were just going back and forth to sports, spending a lot of time in the car with one another, there was this element there. Mom wasn't having adult conversations in the car with the kids.
yes. Yep,
And so I have been fairly cognizant of that because I do know that when I'm listening to whatever, Paw Patrol or whatever we're doing that is like it nails on a chalkboard for me, I do know that my son is connecting with me and being like, "Oh, we're listening to this together," rather
exactly.
than me being in a conversation, which he won't push back on. But you could tell he's like, "Oh, we're not connected."
Mhm.
Yep.
Well, that's interesting that you say that because I talk that's something I talk about all the time, right? Like, that sometimes sitting with someone and watching a show, is actually very connected, where
Right.
other times we could be in the same room with someone and feel very disconnected.
Right.
It's kind of like the intention, right? Like in that moment, like even though you and your son are watching a show and you're not having a deep conversation, the intention is to connect and that's felt.
Sure. Sure.
Versus like when you walk, when you're walking to a room full of people and maybe you don't know any of them, you could feel very alone, even though
Mhm.
there's a room full of people.
So you talk about wanting to expand your practice and you founded Clear Mind Counseling. You're currently situated on Long Island,
Yes.
looking to expand into New York City. When just to kind of talk a little bit about leadership and development, what has that been like? What has been the strength of Clear Mind Counseling? Where are the growth strategies? And, as a woman entrepreneur as well as a mom, what does that look like in your day to day?
Um, so I was in a group practice for 10 years. And 2.5 years ago, I decided to go out on my own. It was always my long-term goal. But I mean, like you get complacent. It was easy. I can come and go. The kids were little. And so finally, I felt like I was just in a place where I was like really ready. And
Mhm.
the best part of it for me, which was so unexpected, was that I really loved the business end. And I had no idea that first of all, and I
Interesting.
you guys talked about this in another podcast I listened to. Why do they not teach business in social work school? No idea. But, I had no idea. I'd never, like, started a business, and I loved it. I loved everything about it, and I found it lit me up in a new way. Like, I love doing therapy, but this was, like, a different lighting up of my brain. And I loved planning it. I loved, like, the branding part, like, all of it was so fun and so exciting to me. Um, and that was really surprising. And so, like, a year in, I decided to expand and take on an associate. And so now Lindsay works with me. And she's a great complement, I believe. Like, I do DBT, she does EMDR. And so it feels cohesive and like, they really work nicely together. Obviously, we see a lot of trauma, addiction, eating disorders, depression, anxiety. I mean, the same kind of practices that most do, but I feel like we can offer um, kind of like a unique and complementary set of services. Um, Something really cool too about Lindsay that I'll just plug is that she has a therapy dog. So she has a Shih Tzu who she brings to the sessions with her, and he like um, will be in the room, and he kind of like will like aid in her sessions. Like Dante will
Oh,
just
amazing.
I know, and it's really, I don't think that there's a lot of people doing that on Long Island, so that's really cool.
It's amazing.
Um, and so then just like in terms of a growth mindset, I feel like I'm in that momentum because I really loved the business end. And so I wanted to like kind of break out into the city. I go to the city a lot. I go to a lot of events. I know a lot of people in the city. And so I was like, that just feels like maybe the next step. And so as of October, I have an office in Manhattan. And so my intention for 2026 is to really start growing that part of the business.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And where is your office in New York City?
It is on Lexington and 60th.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So you're a mom of teenagers, you are working, you are doing all the things. In closing, if you could shift one belief for young adults about the ideas they hold about intimacy, what would it be?
I would say take the risk.
Mm,
The risk is worth it. It's scary, but anything amazing is scary.
so
And so
true.
I would say take the risk, right? Like, the belief is that like it's fear and it's protection. And I would say
Mhm.
take the leap. Yeah.
Amazing.
That's a
Mhm.
great permission slip for our
Yeah.
listeners. Take the
Yeah.
risk.
Take the risk.
Yeah,
Right?
absolutely. Thank
Mhm.
you so much. It has been a pleasure, and hopefully we will
So
have a part two
true.
at some point.
I would
And
love that.
you made it onto your bucket list,
I
that you recorded your first ever podcast, and we are so thrilled that you shared the experience with us. As everyone knows, please follow us on YouTube, like and subscribe. We appreciate all the support. Write us in, comment, give us suggestions. We're looking to grow ourselves for 2026, and we look forward to you guys being along our journey. Thank you so much.
Thank you so
Thanks.
much for having me. It was actually amazing. I'm so grateful.
Pleasure.
Thank you.